Please welcome this week's special guest, Eamonn. So, Tom, what is Eamonn to you?
This is Eamonn, and after a night out on the tiles with me, he was unable to walk for 2 days.
Right, so, Tom's partying pal. Vicki, how do you know Eamonn?
This is my neighbour, Eamonn, and for about a month, we each thought we were conversing with an owl, when in reality, we were each hooting at the other.
Right. Vicki's featherless friend. And finally, Lee, what's your relationship with Eamonn?
This is Eamonn. He caught me climbing out of the boot of my car after I'd smuggled myself into his safari park.
David, where do you want to begin?
Well, Tom.
Yes?
So what was it that happened to Eamonn that stopped him walking for 2 days?
None of your goddamn business. I was doing a gig. Mm-hmm. We went out.
Describe the evening.
We went to a nightclub and we got drunk and... Sorry, everybody. And I was actually thrown out of the nightclub when I tried to prop myself up on a rope barrier and fell on the floor.
Well, hang on a minute, Tom.
Yes.
You've done a gig
Yes.
where you're compos mentis, you're sober,
Completely.
you're being your wonderful, glittering self,
Yes.
you're entertaining literally dozens of people, and then you go out with your friend Eamonn,
Yes.
laughing Eamonn there. What does he do?
He's a photographer.
A photographer.
Does he take photos of you for your desktop file? Pictures still.
So you fell over.
Yes.
The bouncers go, hang on, someone in here has been drinking.
Yes.
And throw you out.
Yes.
I hope they said it in exactly that voice, Derek.
So then, Eamonn, being my friend, took me back to my hotel, but I could not remember what room I was in, and so he had to put me in the lift. He went up to each floor to see if the key would work on any of the doors on that floor. So Eamonn went off to try the doors. But he didn't want to leave me in the lift in case the lift door closed and I went to another floor and he never saw me again. So he draped me across the threshold of the lift.
Yes. Yeah.
So the doors were constantly opening and closing across my head.
How many floors did he check?
I think it wasn't a huge one, but it was probably about 6 floors high.
6 floors.
And on 6 separate occasions, the lift doors are
Exactly.
banging on your head.
Several times on each floor. And at that point, he realised I was actually staying not in the main part of the hotel, but in an annex next to it, which had no lift, and so he had no choice but to drag me to my room.
And
where
all
he
this
opened the door,
lugging and dragging
and
left him unable to walk.
did his back in
Right.
and left him unable
I'm
to walk for 2
surprised
days.
you could walk after all that.
Well, I'm a very resilient person, Esme.
Who would you like to question next?
OK, so, Vicki.
Just remind us what it was that you said, Vicki.
This is my neighbour, Eamonn, and for a month, we both thought we were conversing with an owl, when in fact we were just hooting at each other.
Could you show us a hoot?
That's rich coming from you.
OK, so what I heard was... Woo.
That's a ghost.
And I went, because I'm quite keen on owls, and I went...
What's that?
It's a mouse.
No, it's the call and response of the tawny owl.
Is it? And you thought, we must welcome the tawny owl.
Yeah. This owl's gonna be lonely.
Yeah.
Unless I let it know that it has a friend.
Do you realise that what you're doing, strictly speaking, is grooming? Because you're not an owl. You're pretending to be an owl under false pretences to...
Catfishing.
I hadn't really
yeah.
thought that it was owl fishing.
Yeah. OK,
Yes.
what happened next?
Cut to, a few nights later, I am going to the back door, and I go and I think, well, I wonder if that owl is out there. So I go
Oh, hang on, that's the reply.
Why didn't you do the ooh?
Well, because actually the wit is the call and the woo is the reply.
Well, hang on then. Why did you wit when you heard a woo? 'Cause that owl was clearly already talking to someone else. Finally, there's an owl in the area and you just interrupt.
And then how did you find out he wasn't the owl?
Look at him. Would it be great now if his head just span round?
At the end of our road is a off-licence shoppy type thing, and I was in there, and Eamonn was buying a Sunday paper. One of the things that was in there was a supplement which was about nature, and one of the things that they'd done a survey on was something called owl prowl, and it was lists of sightings of owls.
Can I just say, I've had years of experience in this. You are digging a massive hole. You didn't need to mention the supplements.
Anyway, owl prowl.
Sorry, so owl prowl, yes. And I said, I think there's an owl in this neighbourhood, and he said, there is, I've heard it. And I said, I think it's a tawny owl. And I said, in fact, I heard it last night, and he said, so did I. And then it gradually dawned on us both that what we'd been doing was...
I see. Replying.
Hooting.
Yeah.
Is this the plot of like a rom-com with Meg Ryan?
Yes. What about Lee? Would you remind us of your claim?
This is Eamonn. He caught me climbing out of the boot of my car after I tried to smuggle myself into his safari park.
How long ago?
This was 13 years ago.
So what was the saving?
The saving was, I think it was £35 for an adult.
Right.
But the reason why I didn't want to pay is because I had been before to the safari park and I'd come out without the annual pass and I was annoyed. So I got so irritated and we had a bit of a row, me and my wife, because I said, go back and get the annual pass, and she said, no. And in the end, I said, well, look, I'm just going to sneak in the boot. We had our baby on the back seat. He wouldn't get in the boot with me, so...
So when you were in the boot, how were you lying in the boot? How big a
bit
boot
like
was
now.
it?
How were you found, Lee? The plan was that...
The plan was
you'd
to just get
driven in.
Yes. So what happened, I said to my wife, is once we're in, pull over when it's safe, and she stopped. But the reason she stopped, I thought because we were safe, but no, it wasn't because she was safe. It was because a load of monkeys were crossing the road. So she stopped to let these monks cross. I think it's now safe to get out. We've got a safety latch in the boot. I think the thing, I got out...
You let yourself out of a boot?
Well, there's a little latch on...
No, there's not.
There is.
Is
Safety
there?
latch. There has been since 2013.
Can I ask you
All
something?
boots have to be fitted with an inner safety latch.
But this was 13 years ago, not 2013.
Exactly. So luckily, I had an advanced model. I had the prototype. The first car on the market to have a boot latch inside it.
You get
Baby,
out...
do you not remember the advert? Sick of your boot only opening from the outside? No longer. With the new Skoda internal boot latch. 6.4. No, so Eamonn, who is working at the safari park...
As what?
He was the ranger, and his job was to make sure people...
What sort of equipment did he have?
Oh, he had it all. He had a big net.
Pith helmet?
No, he had a big net. He had a gun. He had a thing over his thing with lots of little darts in.
Yeah.
He had a safari jacket on.
He had a snooker cue, a tennis racket, a banjo. And he spotted you climbing out of the boot.
Correct.
What were the monkeys doing as you got out of the boot? Did they just go on with their business,
luckily,
or did
the
they...
first thing they did was they removed the dead zebra that was lying on the floor, and that's what they were using to cross. But then they... It's confusing when a zebra just dies. Everyone just walks across them, doesn't it?
And your wife must have been alarmed.
No, that's just the car. And so I get out the boot, there's mayhem, he comes over, what are you doing? Get in the car! And then he does something to the monkeys, which is like he waves something and they run. He just goes, and they go, ooh, and they run.
Are you just retelling the plot of Jumanji?
The monkeys have gone.
The monkeys are gone because he waved
Can you remember
the
what
anti-monkey stick.
Can you remember what it looked like, this anti-monkey stick?
Yeah, I remember it being very bright. I remember it being like a light, a very long light, like a
Lightsaber.
like Star Wars.
Like a lightsaber.
You have a lightsaber.
Lightsaber. This is a job not for the net or the dart gun, but the lightsaber.
Yeah, you're gonna...
Right, he started doing that.
So
I think this was a lie, but I think Lee is starting to believe it on some level. Yeah. He's so far into it.
What happens then?
So then he's telling me off. First of all, get in the car. Safety first.
Yeah.
So
Does he get in the car with you?
He gets in the car. Now he starts telling me off through the window. Now, I can't open the window, which I tried to do politely. He went, close your window. So he went, what the hell are you doing out? Can't hear you. He said, leave the window on. You've not opened the window. I said, I can't hear you. Don't open the window. I said, I can't hear you. Don't open the window. And then eventually thought it'd be easy to just get in.
Difficult
This is 13 years ago, by the way.
for him to get in with all his equipment.
And the baby in the baby seat in the back seat.
He gets just past the baby. He sits in between the baby. There's the baby. There's me. And there's baby.
So you're in the back as well. You didn't get in the front.
I didn't get in the front because I just panicked. He said, get in the car now. I just got in the first door I saw.
OK.
And I had to climb over the baby, then he had to climb over the baby. Shut both the doors.
Your wife's in the front, and in the back are you, Eamonn, the baby, the net, the lightsaber, and the dart gun.
Correct. You all right?
Oh, look, he's crying at the memory of it.
It's bringing back tears, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
How does this come to a conclusion, Lee?
Well, so he looked at me and he said, is there any reason you've made me come in here with all this paraphernalia? What kind of idiot would get out the back of it? Are you trying to sneak in and not pay? I said, well, the thing is, stop laughing. I said, the thing, at least comb your beard up so it covers your mouth. And my wife said, don't talk to me like that. And he says, why are you sneaking in? And I told him the story I told you. And he didn't believe it either. Yeah. And he chastised me. He gave me a good telling off. He said, you're risking your life here. He said, you're not going to believe this. He says, but exactly a week ago, a fella got out the boot of his car. And unfortunately, he'd used a new banana shampoo, and they literally dragged him off into the forest, and he was never seen again.
I remember. I think I read about that.
Yeah. Do you remember?
It's OK. You can relax now. We need an answer. So, David's team is Eamonn Tom's partying pal, Vicky's featherless friend, or maybe Lee's wildlife warden.
What I don't get with Lee's story is why, in the beginning, was he going to lengths of sneaking himself in like a journalist entering a war zone when it was just a safari park?
Because, I mean, listen, we just had a baby and things were tight. I mean, I'd spent most of my money on a new car that had a new facility to get ourselves out of the loop.
Basically, we have 3 stories. One of them isn't possible. Yes. 2 of them are unlikely but possible. And I think I'll leave it there.
So who's it going to be then? Time to decide.
I don't know.
So you think you think Tom?
No, I think Vicky.
You think Vicky? If you're divided,
Yes.
I will cast my casting vote for Tom.
Saying it's Tom. OK, Eamonn, would you please reveal your true identity?
I'm Eamonn, and I had to get Tom back to his hotel room.
Yes, Eamonn is Tom's partying pal. Thank you very much, Eamonn.